Okay, so I want you to think about something with me. It is one of the most wonderfully weird thought experiments I have ever come across. An idea that, sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's actually grounded in some pretty fascinating real-world biology and computer science.
Right. This is it. This is the big question. And I mean, really, just stop and think about that for a second. Could you actually take a colony of living, breathing insects and get them to, what, do math? To compute? It sounds absolutely bananas, but the answer? Well, it's way more complex and unbelievably cool than you might think.
So this isn't just some silly question to mess with your head. Nope, it's a serious thought experiment, right at the crossroads of nature and technology. And to even get our heads around it, we've got to take a step back and ask a really basic question. What even is a computer, really?
Yeah, forget all the glowing keyboards and fancy cases for a minute. At its most fundamental level, the device you're watching this on right now is just billions and billions of microscopic switches flipping on and off over and over again. That's it. That's the whole game. Just simple actions scaled up to create incredible complexity.
So, here's the core idea, our main analogy. In a normal computer, you have these tiny things called transistors acting as the switches, and the signal that flips them is electricity. Now, in our theoretical formic computer, formic just means ant-related, we're going to replace those transistors with groups of ants. And the signals, well, they're the flowing streams of the ants themselves. We are literally swapping silicon for insects here.
Okay. But how is this even remotely possible, right? If we want ants to compute, we have to figure out how they think, but as a group. And the secret isn't that any single ant is some kind of tiny genius. Nope. The magic is that the colony as a whole behaves in a really smart way, all thanks to one simple, kind of beautiful principle.
And that principle is called stigmergy. I know, it's a fancy word, but it's for a super simple idea. It's just individuals communicating with each other indirectly by changing the world around them. So instead of, talking or sending signals, ants leave little messages in the form of chemical trails for the next ant to come along and find.
Think of it like this. One ant just wanders off, finds some food, and on its way back to the nest, it leaves behind a little trail of chemicals called pheromones. Soon, another ant stumbles on that trail and follows it, and on its way back, it adds its own pheromones, making the trail stronger. Before you know it, the shortest, best path to the food becomes this super strong chemical highway that the whole colony uses. There's no boss, no one giving orders, just simple rules creating this incredibly intelligent, coordinated behavior. It's amazing. So, we have our signal, right? The streams of ants. Now, how do we get them to actually do some math, to compute? Well, this is the fun part. This is where we build the very heart of our formic machine, something we'll call the ant gate. See, every single complex thing your computer does, from loading a website to rendering a video, it's all built from millions of tiny little decision makers called logic gates. The most basic one is called an AND gate, and it's simple. It only gives you an output if input A and input B are both turned on. So, here we go. We're replacing those electrical signals with our streams of ants. To create that AND function, all we need to do is build a little junction where a new output stream of ants only forms if two separate input streams are active at the exact same time. All right, let's picture this in our minds. Imagine two separate lines of ants marching along. That's our input A and our input B. We're going to build a little pathway that forces these two trails to meet up at one single point, a junction. Now here's the clever bit. The shape of this junction is everything. We design it in such a way that a single ant from stream A gets to the junction and it just can't cross a gap. It's stuck. It literally needs a partner arriving from stream B at about the same time to kind of help form a bridge or just give it the push it needs to get across. And boom, there you have it. If you only have stream A flowing, nothing happens at the output. If you only have stream B, again, nothing. But when you have ants from stream A and stream B arriving together, they cross the junction and create a brand new single output stream. We just built a biological AND gate. How cool is that? So we did it. We have our basic building block. But what does it actually take to go from one simple little gate to an entire computer? Well, this is where the sheer mind-boggling scale of the challenge really hits you. To build a real computer, you wouldn't just need one of these ant gates. You'd need millions, maybe even billions of them, all connected by this impossibly complex web of pheromone trails acting as wires. Your power source? A constant supply of sugar water. And your output? You just have to sit there and watch where the final streams of ants end up going. The complexity is just astronomical, and it would be so unbelievably slow.
But then, you see a quote like this, and it really puts things into perspective. While our ant computer is this slow, clunky thought experiment, it's a powerful reminder that nature itself is the ultimate computer. Things like evolution, ecosystems, the human brain, these are all forms of biological computation working on a scale that we can barely even begin to understand.
So let's wrap this up. Why even bother thinking about something that seems so out there, so impractical? What's the real point of all this? Let's just go ahead and answer that first question directly. Could you build a computer from ants? Yes. In theory, based on what we know about computation and the predictable behavior of ant colonies, it's absolutely possible. Now, it would be a terrible, slow, buggy computer, but it would be a computer.
And really, that's the whole point. The goal here isn't to invent a new product or replace your laptop with an Antil. It's about breaking ourselves out of this silicon box we've been in for decades. It's about expanding our entire definition of what computation can even be. It forces us to look at the world around us not just as, well, nature, but as a potential information processing system.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. If ants can theoretically form logic gates, what else can? Could we one day compute with slime molds, or with a network of roots in a forest? How about with the folding of proteins inside our own cells? The natural world is just filled with these incredibly complex systems, and they're all just waiting there for us to finally learn their language.